Did you know that there are not just one but two Kremlins in Russia? And that there is a leaning tower worthy of rivaling the famous Tower of Pisa? What if I told you that this tower was the scene of a cruel and deadly episode involving a forced marriage? But the most intriguing thing is that these monuments and events don't actually belong on Russian soil, but in a country within Russia. Have you ever heard of Tatarstan? Probably not. And that's exactly what makes this place one of the greatest mysteries on the planet. It's the scene of events you can't even imagine. That's why today Bello Mundo is taking you to Tatarstan. If you think you've seen it all, get ready for a surprise that will blow your expectations out of the water. Number 1. Location and geographical data. Tatarstan, officially a republic within the Russian Federation, is one of the country's most culturally rich regions. I bet you weren't expecting that, were you? Yes, there is a country inside Russia. Just like the Vatican in Italy, in other words, an isolated territory within another country. On the map, it looks like an island, only instead of water, it's surrounded by Russian land. Located about 500 miles east of Moscow, Tatarstan has a strategic position, right on the line between Europe and Asia. And this location has made all the difference throughout history. Two of the largest rivers in the region, the Volga and the Kama, cut through its lands and have always been essential to the local economy, both for transportation and irrigation. The Republic occupies an area of 26,000 square miles, small in territory, but giant in importance. This is because the region is rich in natural resources, especially oil, which is the basis of its economy. In fact, Tatarstan's economy is among the most developed in the country, with oil being the main driver of this prosperity. Tatneft, one of Russia's largest oil companies, has its headquarters in the Republic and is responsible for a significant part of the country's production. Historically, Tatarstan was a bridge between East and West, disputed by the Mongol and Russian empires. A territory that is home to an Islamic majority population, with its own language and culture, preserved to this day. And it's exactly this fascinating history that we're going to explore now. Number 2. History. The history of Tatarstan is full of twists and turns. In the 13th century, the Mongols conquered the region and founded the Khanate of Kazan, a vibrant center of Islamic culture and trade. However, in 1552, Tsar Ivan IV, better known as Ivan the Terrible, arrived and put an end to the local people's period of peace and prayer. From then on, Kazan became the eastern border of the then young Russian state. As a result, Orthodox Christianity began to spread, but despite attempts at assimilation, Tatar traditions and culture resisted and remained alive. And speaking of resistance, Ivan's victory over the Tatars was far from easy. It took him 3 military campaigns to defeat them, and this battle left wounds in the Russian ego. Yes, you heard right. The Russians held a certain grudge against the Tatars, an ethnic group that has always been treated badly in Russian literature. The Tatars originally come from East Asia, and due to their connection with Genghis Khan's Mongol Empire, their name spread throughout Europe and Western Russia as a synonym for barbarians, thieves, and murderers. In Russian books, there was always a rule: don't let your horse loose near a Tartar, because he'll steal it. And God help us if he picks up a gun. You can feel the rancor, can't you? In old Russian plots, if a Tatar appeared, he was portrayed as a villain, humiliated and treated like dirt. This only reinforces the resentment and poorly healed scars of the Russians of the time. But back to the story. During the Soviet period, Tatarstan was transformed into an autonomous republic in 1920. Even with the repressions of the communist regime, the Tatar identity resisted. After the collapse of the Soviet Union in 1991, the region retained its autonomous status within the Russian Federation, and to this day is considered by many scholars to be a thorn in Vladimir Putin's side. But the truth is quite different. The Tatars are known for their hospitality and rich culture, and when you visit Kazan, this is more than evident. Number 3. Kazan. And since we're talking about the capital, it's time to explore this fascinating place further. When you arrive in Kazan, you can already see the great Asian and Islamic influence. The majority religion is Islam, but contrary to what you'd expect in Islamic countries, women dress freely and alcohol consumption is permitted in this city. Kazan has a population of over 1.5 million inhabitants, and as you would expect from a city of this size, there is plenty to do here. You may not remember it, but this city was one of the venues for the World Cup in 1818 when Russia hosted the tournament. With over 1,000 years of history, it is one of Russia's oldest cities and is often referred to as the third capital after Moscow and St. Petersburg. What makes it special is its incredible ability to combine tradition and modernity in perfect harmony. And here's a fun fact. Did you know that the city is home to the world's shortest metro? That's right. Just 10 kilometers long and with 11 stations, it may be small, but it's efficient and connects the main points of the city, maintaining the mix of the modern and the historic. In addition, the city is an important university center, especially the Federal University, one of the oldest and most respected in Russia, founded in 1804. Kazan is also becoming a technological hub, with growing investments in science and innovation, becoming a reference in the field of information technology in the country. And of course, we can't forget the Kazan Arena, the famous stadium that hosted matches during the World Cup in 2018, putting the city in the international spotlight. Number 4. Kazan Kremlin. Kazan is a fascinating city, there's no denying that, but what really catches the eye and stands out as the city's main postcard is the Kazan Kremlin. Yes, they have a Kremlin as magnificent as Moscow's, or, depending on who you look at, even more impressive. The Kazan Kremlin is located on top of a hill, with a breathtaking view of the Volga and Kazanka rivers, and of course the sunset, which makes everything even more enchanting. Right at the entrance, we are greeted by an imposing statue with Soviet features. It is a monument to Musa Jalil, a poet and hero of the Soviet resistance during the Second World War. In the statue, the poet appears to be freeing himself from his bonds, with his chest puffed out and a look of fury, an image that really impresses. Unlike the historic Kremlins in Moscow and Novgorod, the one in Kazan stands out for its white walls. And it's not just the golden-domed Orthodox churches that it's famous for, although they are there too, but for housing one of the most beautiful mosques you'll ever see, the Kul Sharaf Mosque. This majestic building is one of those that you feel like sitting next to and admiring for hours. Its details, the grandeur of the domes, and the sun reflecting off its walls make this mosque the most impressive sight in the Kremlin. This stone fortress is practically a small city, occupying just over 2 acres, with museums, temples, academies, and even official buildings, such as the residence of the President of the Republic of Tatarstan. The Kazan Kremlin has almost 1.24 miles of walls, which reach an impressive 39 feet in height. There are 8 towers in total, 5 of them round, all with wooden roofs, except for Spasskaya, which is the gateway and has a bell tower with a clock. What a tower! Number 5. Tower of Pisa in Russia. Outside the walls of the Kazan Kremlin is a famous tower, the Sabantui, often compared to the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy. It currently stands at 6.5 feet, 184 feet high and made of red brick. The tower was originally built as a lookout point. From its top, the panoramic view is breathtaking, reaching as far as the Volga River. But what really attracts tourists are the legends surrounding the tower. The most famous involves Ivan the Terrible. According to the story, after conquering the Tatars and destroying the fortress, Ivan fell in love with Soyambika, a local queen, and demanded that she marry him. Legend has it that Soyambika agreed to the marriage, but on one condition. Ivan had to build a 7-story tower in just 7 days. Determined, the Tsar accepted the challenge and finished the work. On the last day, the wedding took place. However, in a tragic outcome, the queen threw herself from the top of the tower shortly after the ceremony, taking her own life. Of course, this story is more myth than reality. In fact, Soyambika never married Ivan, and she died in another city, under very different circumstances. But, as always, the legend is much more engaging than the facts, isn't it? Speaking of legends, one of Kazan's most curious stories involves cats and mice. The city has a monument that is, to say the least, quirky and cute, and very popular with tourists, where a large cat lies face up on a bed. Legend has it that a Russian empress, impressed by the absence of rats in Kazan thanks to the skill of the hunting cats, ordered 30 of them to be sent to St. Petersburg. These cats would have put an end to the rat infestation in the city. Of course, this is just a legend, but that's how Kazan is, full of fanciful and enchanting stories. Returning to the Sabantui Tower, next to it you'll find an Orthodox church and some palaces. The most interesting thing is the proximity between the church and a mosque, symbolizing the peaceful coexistence of the two religions, which brings us to the next theme. Number 6. Religion. Unlike other parts of Russia, Tatarstan is a rare example of peaceful coexistence between Islam and Orthodox Christianity. While 71% of Russians follow the Orthodox Church, in Tatarstan, 60% of the population is Muslim and the rest Orthodox Christian. What's most interesting? These religions coexist in complete harmony, especially in Kazan, the capital. The first president of Tatarstan, Mintimer Saramiev, reinforced this peace by restoring two great symbols, the Kul Sharif Mosque and the Cathedral of the Annunciation, inside the Kazan Kremlin. And since there's room for all religions, in 2005 a plot of land was set aside for the construction of a Catholic church, which was consecrated in 2008, demonstrating the region's commitment to religious diversity. For those who don't know the difference between Orthodox Christianity and Catholicism, it lies mainly in the structure of the church. While Catholics are guided by the Pope, the Orthodox follow independent patriarchs in their regions, but the core beliefs are similar. This harmony is not only reflected in the buildings. Festivals such as Ramadan and Orthodox Easter are widely celebrated. Number 7. Sabantui. And while we're on the subject of festivals, let's talk about one of the most important, Sabantui, the main celebration in Tatarstan. As we've already said, the Tatars are the second most populous people in Russia, with 4.7 million people. Most of them live in Tatarstan, but they are also found in Bashkortostan and Siberia. However, regardless of where they are, every summer they come together to celebrate Sabantui, also known as the Plough Holiday. This festival began as a rural celebration to mark the end of spring planting. Over the centuries, the celebration has evolved into a cultural event that attracts people from all over Russia. The festival is famous for its traditional competitions, such as the belt fight known as kuresh, horse races, and even log fights. The latter is almost like a pillow fight, but instead of a bed, two participants balance on a tree trunk and try to knock each other down using bags filled with sawdust instead of pillows. No wonder this festival has been recognized as intangible cultural heritage of humanity by UNESCO. But not everything has always been about culture. In the past, this festival was also an opportunity for young people to meet and perhaps get to know a partner. Which brings us to our next subject, marriage. Number 8. Wedding traditions. In Tatarstan, weddings go far beyond a simple union between two people. They are a fusion of Islamic and Tatar traditions, and the dowry still plays an important role in the ceremony. The groom must offer gifts to the bride's family as a symbol of commitment and respect. The traditional Tatar wedding follows the Muslim nikah ceremony, which can take place at home or in a mosque, always with the presence of a mullah, who is the religious leader of Islam. The groom wears a traditional hat called a skull cap, while the bride wears a long dress with closed sleeves and a veil, which is obligatory. But the wedding doesn't end with the ceremony. There are post-wedding traditions that are just as important as the nikah. When the bride enters the groom's house for the first time, her mother-in-law places a pillow under her feet, symbolizing her wish for the new wife to be gentle and soft with the family, walking lightly as if she were always stepping on a pillow. This gesture seeks to ensure peace and harmony in the home. In addition, the mother-in-law offers her daughter-in-law a spoonful of honey, symbolizing that her words are always sweet, promoting good family relations. Number 9. Food and traditions. Of course, if there's a wedding, there has to be food. These festivals celebrate Tatar Islamic culture, with gastronomy at the heart of everything. The tables are filled with traditional dishes, each with a special flavor. Among the favorites are bailas, small breeds stuffed with meat or potatoes, baked or fried. The kurt, a dry, salty cheese made from fermented milk, is perfect to accompany the conversation. And if you think that's it, you're wrong. The gubadia steals the show, a multi-layered pie filled with rice, raisins, eggs, meat, and dried curd. It's a special dish that fills anyone's eyes just by looking at it. To sweeten things up, there's nothing better than chuk chuk, a dessert made of fried dough balls covered in honey, which is as famous as it is beloved. And so we come to the end of this incredible journey through Tatarstan, a land full of surprises, culture, and rich history. Now we want to know, what did you think of this journey? Had you ever heard of Tatarstan? Or maybe you've just wanted to add it to your list of places to visit? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed the content, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and activate the bell to stay up to date with upcoming adventures. And of course, share this video with anyone who also loves exploring our Bello Mundo. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you on the next adventure.